They called it the Council of Ascendancy. 50 worlds, 1,000 representatives, one vote that would decide the fate of an entire species. Ours. The chamber was vast, carved from living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent veins. Each delegate sat in tiered rings that spiraled upward like the inside of a shell. At the center, suspended in anti-gravity fields, floated the holographic projection of a small blue planet. Counselor Theric, Supreme Commander of the Valorian Armada, rose from his seat. His exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's light. Obsidian plating over muscle and sinew, evolved for war. When he spoke, his voice resonated through translation nodes embedded in every delegate's skull. Esteemed Council, for 2 centuries we have observed this world. We have studied their transmissions, analyzed their conflicts, mapped their divisions. Now start. He gestured, and the hologram shifted. Borders appeared on Earth's surface, glowing red where wars had been fought. There were so many. They call themselves humanity. They cannot agree on governments, on resources, on gods. They slaughter each other over invisible lines drawn in dirt. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Agreement, contempt. The continued, their technology is primitive, their weapons crude. They have barely touched their own moon, let alone the stars. And yet, he paused, letting silence sharpen his next words. They sit on a world rich in element 7, the fuel that powers our empire. A world perfectly positioned along the outer spiral trade routes. Another delegate stood. Ambassador Kyra of the Scholarium Collective, her translucent form shimmering like liquid glass. Commander Theric, the Accords of Harmonious Expansion forbid invasion of pre-stellar civilizations. Humanity has not yet achieved faster than light travel. They are protected, underprotected. The laugh was a guttural rasp. The Accords were written when the Council believed primitive species deserve time to evolve. But evolution requires unity, cooperation, discipline. The hologram zoomed closer. Cities burning, protests, military parades. Humanity has none of these. They are a fractured, self-destructive species. If we do not claim their world, they will destroy it. Themselves. We would be doing the galaxy a favor. The chamber erupted. Some delegates shouted support. Others objected. But they had prepared for this moment. He had spent months ensuring the right votes were secured, the right fears stoked. When the arbiter called for order, the vote began. Green light for invasion, red light for restraint. One by one, the delegation rings lit up. Green, red, green. Kyra's light flickered, then turned green. She met the gaze across the chamber, her expression unreadable. When the count finished, the result was displayed in every language the council spoke. Resolution, 4,447 ohms. Authorization of territorial acquisition approved. Humanity's fate had been decided by beings who had never set foot on Earth, who had never felt its rain, never heard its music, never known the smell of its soil after a storm. They saw only numbers, resources, opportunity. They did not see us. 6 months later, the Armada arrived. 1,800 warships, each the size of a city. Dreadnoughts with hull-mounted plasma cannons capable of glassing continents. Carrier fortresses holding tens of thousands of drones. Bioweapons designed to incapacitate without destroying valuable infrastructure. They emerged from faster-than-light transit at the edge of Earth's solar system, engines blazing like a second sun. They stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, claws folded behind his back. Through the viewport, Earth hung in the distance. Small, fragile, irrelevant. Open all frequencies, he commanded. Translate the message into their primary languages. The communications officer obeyed. Across Earth, every radio, every television, every connected device simultaneously broadcast the same message. People of Earth, you are hereby subjects of the Valorian Empire. Surrender your governments. Cease all resistance. Comply and you will be integrated into our economy as labor assets. Resist, and we will sterilize your cities one by one until compliance is achieved. You have 72 hours to respond. Then they waited. The expected panic, desperate transmissions, leaders scrambling to negotiate. He had seen it on 17 conquered worlds before this one. But Earth was silent. No response. No pleading. No defiance. Just silence. "Commander," the communications officer said, confusion flickering across his face. "There's no reply. Not even encrypted channels. It's as if they didn't hear us." The eyes narrowed. "No, sir. The message was received, confirmed across all major population centers. But there's no response. No government transmissions. No military mobilization we can detect." "It's what?" The officer hesitated. "It's like they're ignoring us." The claws tightened. Ignoring them impossible. Fear was universal. Every species, when faced with extinction, either begged or fought. Humanity was doing neither. "Advance the fleet," Theric ordered. "If they will not answer, we will make them." The armada moved forward, engines cutting through the void. And on Earth, in bunkers buried miles beneath mountains, in laboratories hidden behind false walls, in command centers that did not appear on any map, humanity watched them come. We had heard the message. We simply had nothing to say. Not yet. The armada reached Earth's orbit on the third day. The watch through the viewport as his fleet formed a blockade, a steel noose tightening around the planet. Dreadnoughts positioned over major cities, scanning arrays activated, peeling back Earth's atmosphere and layers, searching for military installations, weapons caches, anything that could pose a threat. They found cities, infrastructure, billions of heat signatures moving through their daily routines, but no armies massing at borders, no fleets launching from hidden bases, no planetary defense grid powering up. Nothing. "Status report," the demanded. The tactical officer's voice was uncertain. "Sir, we're detecting normally. Ground transportation is operating. Power grids are active. We're even picking up entertainment broadcasts. It's as if they don't care. We're here." The tone was ice. "Perhaps they don't understand the severity," suggested Subcommander Krell, his second in command. "They're primitive. Maybe they think we're a hoax, a mass hallucination." They considered this pride was often the weakness of lesser species. "Then we make them understand. Tactical demonstration. Select an uninhabited area. Desert, tundra, somewhere remote. Show them what our weapons can do. Target acquired." The weapons officer reported. "Sahara Desert. No population centers within 200 kilometers. Fire." The dreadnought's main cannon hummed. Building charge. Then a lance of superheated plasma erupted from the barrel, piercing Earth's atmosphere in a column of light that turned night into day across 3 continents. The beam struck the desert. Sand turned to glass. A crater 4 miles wide appeared in an instant, glowing like a wound in the planet's surface. They waited for the panic, for the frantic transmissions, for surrender. Instead, 30 seconds later, a single message appeared on every screen, aboard every ship in the armada. Plain text, English, untranslated. "We saw that. Thank you for the demonstration." That was all. They felt something unfamiliar crawl up his spine. Not fear. He had crushed civilizations far older than this one, but unease. "Trace that transmission," he ordered. "Sources, everywhere, sir." "It's bouncing through their entire planetary network. Satellite relays, ground stations, civilian devices. Whoever sent it doesn't want to be found." Or Theric thought they wanted to show they couldn't be found. Advance ground forces. Land troops in 10 major population centers simultaneously. Secure government buildings. Arrest leadership. If humanity wants to play games, we'll drag them to the negotiation table in chains. The order was given. Deployment pods launched. Black seeds falling from the armada toward Earth's surface. Each pod carried 50 soldiers in full combat exoskeletons, armed with pulse rifles and neural disruptors. They descended over New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Delhi, Sao Paulo, Cairo, Tokyo, Sydney, Johannesburg. They watched the tactical feeds from the bridge. 10 screens, 10 cities, 10 landings. The pods punched through clouds and smashed into streets, boulevards, plazas. Hatches blew open. Soldiers poured out, weapons raised, expecting crowds fleeing in terror. Instead, they found streets empty. Not evacuated, not in chaos, just empty. In New York, a Valoran squad advanced through Times Square. The massive digital billboard still glowed with advertisements. Soft drinks, movies, banking apps, Traffic lights cycled through their colors. A hot dog cart sat abandoned, steam still rising from the water. "This is Ground Team Alpha." The squad leader reported no hostiles, no civilians. "Scanning for life signs, negative contacts in visual range," came another voice. Beijing team reporting same. It's like they vanished. Then in Moscow, a soldier noticed something. Graffiti spray painted on the side of a building in Cyrillic, English, Mandarin, Arabic. A dozen languages layered over each other. "You came to our home, uninvited. Now your guests, and we're very particular about hospitality." Before the soldier could report it, the ground beneath the squad erupted. Not an explosion, something worse. The street itself collapsed, not into a sinkhole, but into a trap, carefully engineered. The pavement had been undermined, reinforced with false supports rigged with motion sensors. 12 soldiers dropped 40 feet into a network of old subway tunnels. And the tunnels were waiting. Darkness swallowed them. Their helmet lights flicked on, revealing graffiti-covered walls, rusted train tracks, and then movement. Not soldiers, not military, civilians. Hundreds of them armed with improvised weapons, rebar clubs, Molotov cocktails, homemade explosives, a man in a business suit wielding a fire axe, a grandmother with a hunting rifle, teenagers with drones retrofitted to carry acid. The Valorans tried to raise their weapons, but the humans were already on them, swarming, overwhelming, dragging soldiers into the darkness with sheer numbers and horrifying determination. One soldier managed to transmit before his comm went dead. "They're not afraid. They're not static." Across all 10 cities, the same scenario unfolded. Traps, ambushes. Civilians turned guerrilla fighters, using their knowledge of their own cities like weapons. Sewers became kill zones. Subways became tombs. Every building a potential snare. And the humans didn't fight to win these engagements. They fought to learn. They were testing Valoran armor, reaction times, weak points, communication protocols. They were gathering data. They stared at the tactical screens as one by one the ground teams went dark. "Pull them back," he said quietly. "Recall all surface units, sir. Now." As the surviving soldiers retreated to their pods and launched back toward the armada, the understood humanity hadn't ignored the invasion. They had invited it in. And somewhere below, in bunkers that did not exist on any map, human commanders watched the retreating ships and allowed themselves the smallest of smiles. The aliens had shown their weapons. Now humanity knew what they were facing, and the real war could begin. The war lasted 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days. But it was not the war the SPI had planned. In the first month, he tried orbital bombardment, precision strikes on military targets, identified by surveillance. But humanity had no military targets. Not anymore. Every base, every installation, every weapons depot had been emptied, stripped, relocated underground or dispersed among civilian populations. The Armada scanners could see buildings, roads, infrastructure, but they couldn't see the networks beneath the repurposed mines, the subway systems linked across continents, the bunkers hidden under hospitals, schools, churches, places the Valorans hesitated to destroy for fear of galactic condemnation. Humanity had turned their entire planet into a labyrinth, and themselves into ghosts. In the second month, they tried blockade and starvation, cut off supplies, let desperation do what force could not. But humans had prepared for this too. Vertical farms and underground complexes, rationing systems that seemed almost rehearsed, communities that shared rather than hoarded, not out of nobility, but out of cold calculation, because they knew survival required unity. And while the blockade held, something else began: the broadcast. Humanity had captured Valoran soldiers in those first disastrous ground assaults. Not many, 40, maybe 50, but enough. And they started streaming their interrogations. Not torture, not violence, just questions. Why did you come here? What did your commanders promise you? Do you know what we call this planet? Oh, do you have a word for that? The streams were transmitted on frequencies the Armada couldn't block. They reached every ship, every soldier, and more importantly, they reached the rest of the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just fighting the Valorans. They were prosecuting them, in the court of public opinion. News of the invasion spread through the galactic community like wildfire. Images of Earth's scarred surface, footage of civilian casualties, intercepted communications, where Valoran officers discussed acceptable losses and resource extraction timelines. And then the humans did something no one expected. They released the vote. Somehow, through hacking, espionage, or sheer determination, humanity had obtained the full record of the Council of Ascendi's proceedings. Every delegate's vote, every argument, every compromise. They broadcast it all. Counselor Cairo watched the feed from her chambers, her translucent form flickering with distress. Her vote, the one that had tipped the balance, was now public knowledge. Her constituents called for her resignation. Protests erupted on Scholarium Prime. Across the council, delegates scrambled to distance themselves from the invasion. Some claimed they'd been misled. Others insisted they'd voted against it. Lies exposed when the humans released the verified records. The Valorian Empire found itself isolated. Former allies refused to send reinforcements. Trade partners enacted sanctions. The narrative had shifted. Humanity wasn't the primitive species being righteously conquered. They were the victims fighting for survival. And they were winning the only war that mattered, the war of perception. In the third month, the changed tactics again. Biological weapons. Engineered pathogens designed to incapacitate without killing, because corpses were bad optics. But a compliant, weakened population was acceptable. The virus was released over 12 major population centers. 72 hours later, they received the medical reports. Infection rate, 0.003%. Impossible. The pathogen had been tested on dozens of species. It should have spread like wildfire. But humanity had done something insane. They had inoculated themselves before the invasion even began. Using their own primitive biotechnology, they'd analyzed every known Valorian bioweapon from intercepted intelligence. Intelligence gathered from spies, defectors, and stolen data. Over years of preparation, they developed broad-spectrum vaccines and administered them to billions. Not everyone. The logistics were impossible, but enough. Enough to blunt the weapon's edge. And those who did get sick, humanity quarantined them with terrifying efficiency. No hesitation, no debate, just cold, brutal pragmatism. They realized then what he was truly facing. This wasn't a species fighting for victory. This was a species that had accepted the cost of survival. They had spent years preparing, not for a war they could win, but for a war they could survive. And they had made peace with what that required. The turning point came in the 6th month. A human strike team, nobody knew how they got past the blockade, infiltrated a Valoran supply convoy. They didn't steal weapons. They didn't sabotage ships. They uploaded a virus into the Armada's communication network. Not a digital virus, a mimetic one. Messages started appearing on personal devices throughout the fleet. Images of Valoran homeworlds, beautiful, untouched. Then images of Earth before the invasion. The similarity was striking. Forests, oceans, cities filled with life. The message was simple. This is what you're destroying. This is what you'll become if someone stronger decides you're in the way. It was psychological warfare at its finest. And it worked. Desertions began. Small at first, a handful of soldiers refusing orders. Then entire squadrons, ships breaking formation and retreating to neutral space. The Valorian Empire could crush a world, but it couldn't crush an idea. The idea that humanity had a right to exist, to fight, to refuse extinction. By the end of the first year, the Armada was a shadow of itself. Half his fleet had withdrawn. Supply lines were severed. Morale was shattered. And humanity hadn't just survived. They'd adapted. Salvaged Valoran technology was already being reverse-engineered. Human scientists working with defectors who'd switched sides were building their own weapons, their own ships. The Council of Ascendancy, facing mounting pressure from member worlds and the threat of dissolution, issued an emergency decree. Resolution 4721 Delta, immediate ceasefire and withdrawal from Terran system mandated. Theric received the order aboard the Eternal Dominion, now scarred and battle-worn. He looked at Earth one last time through the viewport. Still there, still burning in places, still defiant. "Prepare for faster-than-light transit," he said quietly. As the armada limped away from Earth's solar system, sensors detected something. Human ships, crude, cobbled together from salvage and desperation, were leaving Earth's orbit, not fleeing, following. Humanity wasn't content to survive anymore. They were going to make sure the galaxy remembered what happened when you tried to take their home.